Hello, I'm Melanie Tellez. I am the artistic director of Hamilton Children's Choir. We are so excited to be here from Canada at Europa Cantat Junior.
Melanie Tellez.
Oh, do you know what? It's Tellez.
Tellez! Oh, it's not in French.
It's like Spanish, a double L,
Tellez.
like tortilla.
Oh, Tellez. Okay. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
You flew all the way over from Hamilton, Ontario in Canada to Ghent.
We did.
How is Hamilton like? How can you describe the city?
Hamilton is a city that's larger than Ghent, but very spread out. So Ghent actually feels quite magical and connected in this downtown area. And Hamilton is about an hour away from Toronto. So the farther away you go from Hamilton, the more likely you say, oh, we're from Toronto.
Of course, you didn't fly all by your own. You brought with you the Hamilton Children's Choir.
Yes, there were 29 young singers and then 4 adults on the trip.
Yeah, and it's been a year since you've become artist director.
It is my first season as artistic director.
How has it been this past year?
It's been a whirlwind. It's been full of a lot of really deep feelings. It's bittersweet because I have loved working with Cynthia for the past more than 10 years. And so she's very missed, and I am really excited to be making some changes and preserving some traditions and learning a lot. Yeah,
because you, so to speak, took over the baton
from
her.
A very renowned baton.
Because she really took it to an international acclaimed organization, the Hamilton Children's Choir. Yes. What's the story behind it? Because it goes way back.
It does. We're coming up to our 50th anniversary. We've just finished our 48th season. That's much older than me. So the choir started as an opportunity for young singers in the city to be singing collectively and to be doing works like the Ceremony of Carols and other types of larger works that schools weren't doing. And then through different leaders, it took different shapes, but really it became known as what it is now under Cynthira's leadership. And then under her leadership, they went on several tours, visited many countries, won many competitions, and really began to take the shape that we are in now.
Yeah, and what sets us apart from other children's choirs?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. I honestly don't know that there is a real distinction from other children's choirs. I think what we share is that we try to bring our full selves to the experience, and so that includes all of the things we have learned, all of the things we love and care about, and we try to bring those feelings out in the singers, which then allows them, if they're singing from their hearts, the audience can feel it. And so I think it might be trying to create that experience in the room.
Yeah, so I can imagine that you really see children grow up and express themselves because, they start maybe young and they grew up going through all the phases of the Hamilton Children's Choir. I guess it can be very emotional to see these kids, grow up.
It really is, yeah. On this tour, all but 2 are new to international touring. So 2 of them went on our tour to Hong Kong in 2019, but for every other singer on this trip, it is their first time traveling with the choir outside of our province. And so it's a big milestone for them. And I have worked with most of them since they've been 5, 6, 7 in our youngest choirs.
Oh, great. What kind of concerts do you do during a regular season?
We have some concerts where all of our choirs will sing together. So we have our 5, 6, 7-year-olds performing their pieces, their smaller pieces, and then we go through all of our progressions through to Illumini, the choir that's here at the festival today. And then some concerts are just Illumini only, where they'll perform a program, often with a storyline that collaborates with other artists. And so we recently did one with poets from our city, where the poems were written with our singers, they wrote the storyline together, and then we will weave something that integrates a different art form. So it could be movement, or it could be visual art, something that brings the audience a different understanding of the music through that performance.
Yeah, and movement is a very important practice of the choir, because I must admit, Melanie, I've seen some videos online. You work together with choreographers and dance instructors. Why is that aspect so important to the choir?
I think it has an internal experience for the singer, which is that it helps them find their body and to really bring an embodied sense of what they're doing in their performance. And I think conductors have been using gestures in rehearsal because we know that when you're doing something with your body, it goes in much more deeply than just trying to think about it cognitively. And then Zemfira has been brilliant, continues to be brilliant, at understanding which types of gestures are effective in performance, at communicating something, not just a feeling inside, but a feeling outside. And I noticed that here this week that it's happening everywhere. I think every choir I've seen has an embodied approach. So it's exciting to see where it's gone and where it will go next.
Yeah. Can you give some demographic view on the children that entered the Hamilton Children's Choir? I get the impression that it's very mixed and inclusive.
Yes, so we, even our highest level, even this touring ensemble, there isn't a formal audition that requires them to produce a particular type of education or requires them to have a particular economic background. And so we have singers who have come from a variety of cultures, from a variety of households, different economic experiences of life, and what they have in common is their desire to learn music.
Yeah, and the economical background is quite a challenge sometimes because music education in many countries is a sort of after-school education with additional fees. Luckily, the voice as an instrument is free of charge, but how does the choir cope with the financial part of being inclusive and diverse? I guess it's a challenge.
It can be a challenge, yeah, and increasingly there are new ways of thinking about accessibility that we are continuing to learn. So we're certainly not done in the way of trying to navigate and be open and learn more about ways that we have barriers in our program. So it's an ever-evolving process. But one of the ways is that we work very hard to secure funding, and so we seek out grants that are just for providing an opportunity for people who would otherwise be economically challenged to join. And it's part of our policy that we will fund a singer at any age in any program to whatever level they need. And so it can be a full bursary to participate if that is what the family needs, and that's important to us.
Yeah, what really struck me is that the choir gets a nice amount of private money, of funders. How do you inspire people to support a children's choir? Well,
Canada has funding. I would say it's a limited amount of funding, but in truth, it is pretty consistent, and it is, we have a lot of different funders in our city, and then outside of that in our province, and then some national ones are a little bit trickier. It's a big country, but there are different levels of support, and it's a lot of advocacy. And so our executive director, Tricia Leclerc, works very hard so that we're not just, I mean, you can be represented on YouTube and people like your songs, but you have to work in a different way to be represented in the thread of a city, to be understood as not just artistically relevant, but as like culturally relevant to children's growth and to the benefit of that society as a whole. So we apply for a lot of grants. Yeah. We spend a lot of time applying for grants.
Yeah, and what do you hope that the children that are here from your choir will learn after this thrilling and exciting week?
Oh, I mean, I want to say I have reasonable expectations, but I actually have huge expectations. I mean, for so many of them, it's their first time in Europe. For many of them, it's their first time bringing what they've been practicing to a brand new audience. And so the exposure is huge for them. And so I hope that they will feel a greater sense of confidence, a greater sense of who they are, a sense of belonging, a sense of togetherness and connectedness. And the art atelier director, Brigitte, is fantastic. So they're having a really wonderful time learning from her.
Yeah, thank you so much for everything.
My pleasure.
I hope you will have a nice experience in Ghent, and please come back soon.
Oh, I would love to. Thank you.
But it's less hotter.